So my first time through Ebon Downs, and this was a few years back, before Jewel of the North, before item level capping and things like that. This was the first time that I really got myself in over my head. Now I'm playing a fighter at this point, so keep in mind if you were playing a rogue and you have no idea what I'm talking about, class choices matter in this game. I'm playing a fighter, I'm working my way through Ebon Downs, and thank God there was also a place back then called Helm's Hold. What I ended up doing to get my low-level fighter enough experience and enough gear to get through Ebon Downs was play a few quests here in Ebon Downs and then head over to Helm's Hold real quick, play a few quests over there, come back to Ebon Downs, do a little bit more. I can't say it was very Dungeons and Dragons in the second edition view of the game, but from that old first edition perspective where you go into Castle Greyhawk, you go into the dungeon, you do a few rooms, you get done with what you've gotten, you take your haul back to the city, and then you play a little bit more. It wasn't my preferred way of playing the game, but it got me through. And I got to experience Helm's Hold and Ebon Downs, and that was pretty cool. Hey everybody, I'm Kel, and now that you're here, let's talk about Neverwinter. So I made no secret of the fact that I really love Neverdeath. I'm a sucker for a haunted graveyard. I'm a sucker for a fight against undead. What I did not expect was to be completely blown away by the way Ebon Downs was handled in Neverwinter. So soon after the graveyard, to have this place, from the rickety covered bridges to the crumbling architecture to lighting the hearths to bring the ghosts back to their homes, to bring them peace. This was the sort of ghost story that you so rarely get to play in especially a Dungeons and Dragons based game, where things like ghosts and specters, they have an evil alignment, they have a set number of hit dice and armor class, and they're there so that you can beat them in the face until they go away. The only real twist is for certain creatures that come back unless you kill them under certain circumstances. This was the flip side of that coin, where you get to light the hearth and you get to see the ghosts being brought peace, and you can lay them to rest in a sense and put the Ebon Downs back to rest. I really love the way this portion of the campaign is handled. The visuals and also the plot line itself, everything just comes together so well. And if you're not the sort of person who's interested in laying ghosts to rest and you just want to smash them in the face, Galwin Grist has your back too. Here's your quest. In perfect Aldo Rain style, this fireball kills whites. Each one of you owes me 16 white scalps, and I intend to collect my scalps. So don't worry, Neverwinter's never going to have a shortage of go kill things quests. What I really like is this one also had a quest that wasn't entirely based on either collecting MacGuffins or killing things. That was a nice twist. I also kind of like that the pretty standard hook of the priests of Kelemvor went into the Ebon Downs and we've never heard from them again doesn't lead into the also pretty standard trope of now you get to kill a whole bunch of priests of the god of death who have been turned into whites because they went in and got in over their heads. I really like that in this case they got in over their heads, but they're not all dead and turned into the undead. They're holding out in the middle. It's kind of like a precursor to the Well of Dragons, where the good guys are kind of stuck in the middle. They're doing their best. If you remember playing this before Jewel of the North, you really did have a fight on your hands to get to Doomguide Soul Hearth. And then there's a whole lot of fighting on the other end of Doomguide Soul Hearth. So it's a pretty cool way that this is constructed so that you've got your quest giver in the middle, and there's a logical explanation for why he didn't send for help or just go home. He really logically couldn't do that without getting annihilated trying to get out of here. So this is a pretty cool little twist on that trope, and it sets up what comes next in Ebon Downs really well. This dungeon, let me just say, first of all, first person to admit, this dungeon's no clock tower. You're not going back to the heights of Neverdeath. But there's also a sense that a lot of creative energy went into making it more than, okay, light these 4 braziers and light these 2 braziers and then light 3 more braziers. It's really evident that folks were working on this one, trying to figure out how do we make this a little varied, a little interesting. And there's a few things in here, from secret doors and levers and things like that. And also the journals that you get to pick up as you go through that are letting you know about a group of grave robbers that broke into this place, and a whole narrative that really develops these characters as you're exploring the crypt, giving you some idea of these people who came before you. And then finally, you do get to catch up with them. And by the time you get to the last one, you really have some idea of what to expect. And it's a really cool and clever way to wrap up this adventure experience, this little unique dungeon, and make it memorable in a way that some more recent dungeons, where you literally would just go in and light these braziers and light those braziers, and boom, you're done, you get your points, and you move on. There's just a level of creativity and energy that goes into these older quests that really shows the difference between playing at the table of a dungeon master who loves what they're doing and just throws their heart and soul into the game that you're playing, and someone who shows up with their module in their hand and dice in their bag, and they go through and they do a good job of reading the box text and making sure that the monsters use their abilities as best as possible. But they're not really immersing you in the experience and giving you ideas of what's coming and what's around you and what's gone before you. These older adventures really feel like a great Forgotten Realms adventure. And it's a big part of why I've made so many characters to play through the leveling campaigns. They're a lot of fun, and it really feels like they were made from a place of genuine love for the game. Okay, this room. First time I played through this, playing a dwarven fighter, fully armored, dexterity 8. And if you're like me and you tend to see the game through the eyes of your character, even when you're playing a game like this that's mostly combat, instant heartburn. You look at that ledge and you think, how am I going to get across that? Anyway, lots of fun. I really enjoyed this chamber, this room, getting across it to the challenges on the other side. And this is the last room of the dungeon. They've done such a good job building up to this moment, and I absolutely love this. Keep in mind, the first time I played through this, it was after the Idris dungeon had been removed from the game and before it was put back in. There really was no capstone to the Ebon Downs the first time I played through this game. So this encounter at the end of this dungeon, even though there was so much that came afterwards, this is what stands out to me, because this dungeon does such a good job leading up to this battle with this grave robber that it still stands out as kind of the pinnacle of Ebon Downs. After that, it was, just denouement that went on and on and on. But I absolutely love the way this dungeon is resolved. So in the list of things that I wish hadn't been removed from the game for Jewel of the North, there are just 2 things in Ebon Downs that I really miss, other than the Vartalingorix fight. I really miss I might be alone in this, I'll freely admit. There used to be little contests that you would play as you ran around this. And maybe it's because I was playing with my family, my wife, my daughter. We're not all about just solely hacking things to pieces. And there was a competition where you could run around Ebon Downs and collect these green mushrooms. And there was a timer, and when it was over, whoever had collected the most won rewards. Like, there were actual game rewards, prizes that you would win that you could spend on things, and it was a lot of fun, and it was something that wasn't based on chopping things up. Now, Mount Hote, now it was more along the lines of, can you find these imps? And there was more of a combat element there for their can you find it. But for Ebon Downs, it was this really cool little thing. It really fit the environment with all these toadstools and mushrooms growing. It was a lot of fun just running around and grabbing those. It wasn't without combat, because if you're trying to pick up a mushroom and a horde of zombies comes sweeping over you, you ended up doing a fair amount of fighting. But it was not the goal of what you were doing. And that's something that I think Neverwinter's kind of missing these days. Like I said in an earlier video, Neverwinter really is 200% combat. And they've really lost a lot of the exploration. And they've lost a lot of what used to feel like role-playing. And losing those little competition things, as silly as they were, really contributed to that. I'll also say there was another quest. I'm not going to dwell on it for too long, but there was an arachnophobia quest, which was a go kill these things. There was a guard with Doomguard Soul Hearth who was scared of spiders. And there's a cave full of spiders, which is still here in Ebon Downs. You can still go and find these spiders. And there's still some skill nodes in their webs as kind of a reward for going and fighting them. But he would say, please go kill these spiders. And you would go off and you'd find the spiders. And it was, if you have any level of arachnophobia, this cave was full of webs that you had to walk through, and there were several mobs of spiders in the lair, and it was enough to make your skin crawl. It really would, unless you just genuinely don't have any concern about spiders at all. It would get under your skin, because it was made in such a way that it really did feel like you were walking through spider webs, and it was fun. It was fun. And then what's left, kind of the heart of the Doomguide Soul Hearth introduction to the Ebon Downs, is just barrow crawling, going from one barrow mound to the next, and there's a little element of exploration that you're still allowed to have if you're interested in it, where you can read some lore at the entrance to each barrow mound. But for the most part, it's just go into a barrow mound. There's 5 or 6 rooms. Somewhere in there's a crystal. Kill a bunch of undead, shatter the crystal. There's one dude that's got a name, and you kill that person. Move on to the next one. Repeat, and you've killed all of the barrow lords, and then the game will progress. So there's a lot of repetition in this part of the game. If you're following the story, there's enough there that kind of strings you along, but I have to admit that as I play through Ebon Downs over and over, this is the part that really kind of starts to drag for me, because the repetition's kind of hard to overlook after you've done it a few times. But eventually you've done it, you've killed enough zombies, you've defeated enough barrow lords, maybe you've read enough tablets if you've chosen to, and it's time to ride on home and tell Soul Hearth, I've done what you asked me to do. And he's going to tell you to go kill one more, and then he's going to send you off to face Idris in her lair. I hope you've enjoyed what you've seen here today. If you have, please consider liking, subscribing, leave us a comment telling us you'd like to see more. And I hope to see you next time when we talk about Neverwinter.